supplements have to serve a purpose. Randomly giving supplements because the marketing is wonderful or because, oh, there's a Westie on the bottle. I have a Westie. But, like I said, it's all about marketing. These people are geniuses. They know what we're looking at. They know that half of us will look at the bottle and say, oh, that looks like the dog I had growing up. It does not mean it's a good product, but we fall for it.
Right.
And so, all the marketing is based on emotions because that's what makes us open our pocketbooks and lay out the money.
Welcome back to another episode of the Crunchy Carnivore podcast. I am Alyssa Weidenhammer, natural ring breeder, certified canine nutritionist, and I am here with holistic veterinarian, Dr. Jessica Levy. How are you today?
I'm doing great.
Yeah?
How are you?
I'm good. I'm excited about our topic today.
I am too. And it's spring.
It is. It's very nice outside where we are. We are in Minnesota, so we get, the frozen tundra, but we have, it's probably 50 degrees, and it's very sunny.
It's that warm?
Yeah.
Wow, this is like spring Minnesota style.
Yeah. And we're in the middle of February.
I know. It's
right now.
weird.
So that's wonderful. So what we're going to talk about today is this can be so overwhelming and confusing. We really want to talk about this and hopefully bring some clarity and take some of the overwhelm out and give some direction. We are going to talk about supplements today.
And it is a big topic because there are so many of them. So let's talk about supplements in general. How do you know if your dog needs supplements, or does your dog need supplements, or if so, which supplements do they need?
Right.
So a big overarching question is, are supplements necessary?
Yes. Yes.
And the answer is yes, they are.
Yeah.
So
they are.
Unless you are living on your own organic farm in your own organic bubble and you are raising all your own organic livestock and growing your own organic garden.
Using regenerative farming
to
make sure that the soil is taken care of.
Sustainable, yes.
Yep.
And if your dog has never had a drug, never had a vaccine, never had a breath of foul air.
They have been in their bubble wrap.
In the bubble with you to protect you from the chemtrails. Then that person probably does not need supplements.
For their dog.
Yeah, right. But the rest of us don't live like that. And so we do need supplements. So some of the reasons that we need supplements, we use supplements as holistic practitioners. We use them to treat health conditions. So supplements are part of how we address specific issues. We also use supplements sometimes proactively. So before there's a health condition.
Yes, that's the best way to use them.
Yep. And in general, because of the contamination of the air, soil, water, 5G, cell phone towers, chemtrails, flame retardants, questionable backgrounds of our dogs sometimes. And so most of us, I think, are going to need supplements at one point or another. But then the question is, does every dog need every supplement?
Right.
So,
I think it's very easy, especially when you kind of first start raw feeding or you kind of get into the more holistic, natural approach that I think where a lot of us are guilty of doing it. I know I did it in the beginning where you see a supplement and it looks like it does 5 really good things and you're like, well, my dog needs that. And then you see another one and it does, 3 other really good things. And then you throw that in there. And then before you know it, you literally do have 10 to 12 different things on top of feeding raw that you're trying to do for, that you're doing for your dog. And there's a lot of problems with that, but it's natural to kind of have that tendency in the beginning.
Right, because I think at first also, we're looking for what will help my dog.
Right.
Whether it's anxiety, aging, some health condition, whatever.
Itchiness, allergies, yeah.
I remember with the first dog that I had as an adult, I remember going to the big box pet food stores, because that was all that existed at the time, and just trolling the aisles, looking at the supplements, reading the packaging, and anything that said on it, this will rejuvenate your aging dog. I took it home and fed it to him, and none of it did anything. I was still feeding kibble, and probably the supplements were probably garbage anyway. But I had that sense of desperation.
And that's another thing that we're gonna say right off the bat. You cannot out supplement a kibble diet. You can't do it. You cannot achieve vital health in an animal if you continue to feed kibble. I don't care how good the kibble is. I don't care how good the supplements are. Even if the supplements are all organic, sourced well, whole food ingredients, you will have problems and you will not be able to achieve vital health. You just can't. You just can't.
Right. So diet is always going to be number one, and it will do so many things for you to put your dog on a raw diet. So that is, sometimes it's step one, sometimes it's step two, depending on the health condition. So sometimes it is worth using supplements to stabilize a health condition while you're doing the food transition, but it's not going to replace the food transition. So,
Nope.
okay. So, now, there are a lot of supplements out there, and the question is, what is going on? It seems like every day there's something new. I get sucked into the videos and reading the testimonials, and they constantly pop up on Instagram, Facebook, like everybody's trying to sell you something. So what is going on out there?
Oh my goodness. Well, so here's the deal. Supplements, especially now, I mean, in the human, for humans as well as for pets, has become a billion-dollar industry. That's why there's a million supplements, and there's a lot of ways they can make them. They can be made with very inexpensive ingredients and mass produce them, and they can make a heck of a profit. And guess what? There's nobody regulating it. There's nobody regulating it in the pet space for supplementation, or for supplements in particular. And so there's money to be made. There is money to be made. And that is why they can pay for all this marketing. Like, that marketing is not free. And so when you see every time you turn around, there's another ad on Instagram popping up, and it's for the same thing, but it's a different ad and whatever, those cost money. How are they paying for them? Right?
Well, and some of it, like, sounds good and sounds reasonable. Like, I have people come in and their vet has told them, because they've asked, like, should I have Fluffy on a multivitamin? And the vet's like, yeah, well, I mean, that kind of sounds like good. Doesn't everybody need vitamins and minerals in their diet?
It's you're covering the bases.
Exactly. And so a big part of the problem there is that, like, it is kind of like the battle of the marketing geniuses, right? They're just duking it out over this space in our bank accounts, essentially.
Right.
So there's tons of stuff out there. It's very difficult to sort through it. So one of the things to think about as far as like the multivitamin business is your dog's food, if you're feeding kibble, and if you're feeding some of the poorer quality raw foods, if you read the ingredient list, there's already a whole bunch of synthetic vitamins and minerals in there. And the way you know it is because if vitamins and minerals are made from food, the ingredient list is going to read like foods, right? Carrots, blueberries, pomegranates, apples, whatever. If they're synthetic, it's going to say vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin C, zinc, cobalt, iron,
Copper,
etc. If you're already feeding a food that has that whole list of synthetic vitamins and minerals as part of the ingredient, adding a multivitamin is risky. It's not a good idea. If you're adding another synthetic multivitamin, there are already issues with the minimums and the maximum amount of those types of ingredients. So we were just talking about the copper hepatopathy problem.
There was a vitamin D toxicity that happened a while back.
Yeah, and so, and that happened to one of the major pet food companies. That
was
not
one of the biggest.
Yeah, that was not a small problem. And so these vitamin mineral mixes that the pet food companies are putting in their foods, they are there because the first, 10, 20 ingredients have just had the crap cooked out of them.
Right.
So they no longer provide nutrition. And so then you have to add vitamins and minerals to the food so that dogs who eat it don't actually die. And then occasionally the vitamins and minerals kill them.
And so we're going to reiterate this too, because if you haven't listened to any of our previous podcasts or we've talked about this, everybody holds AFCO standards as this it's like or AFCO approved, right? It's this gold standard of how you know the food is okay. Here's the reality of AFCO. AFCO standard is based on minimums. There is no maximum, and the minimum is not what is required for the animal to thrive. Okay, so you have minimums, no cap, right? Nobody's regulating this stuff. And then on top of it, it's synthetic. Synthetic cannot be used in the body the same way that a bioavailable organic source can be used. You really set the animal up for a lot of issues, and then you think about that's just in the processed food, and now we're going to add in a whole nother one of these, and we're going what are we doubling up on? What are we, and what's maybe already too high? Like you just don't know.
And so more vitamins and minerals is not necessarily better, especially if everything is synthetic. So first off, you have to read the ingredients overall of what you're feeding and then what you're planning on adding. So another thing too is that supplements have to serve a purpose. Randomly giving supplements because the marketing is wonderful or because, oh, there's a Westie on the bottle. I have a Westie. But, like I said, it's all about marketing. These people are geniuses. They know what we're looking at. They know that half of us will look at the bottle and say, oh, that looks like the dog I had growing up. It does not mean it's a good product, but we fall for it.
Right.
And so, all the marketing is based on emotions because that's what makes us open our pocketbooks and lay out the money. And so supplements have to serve a purpose. Like we said at the beginning, every dog needs some supplementation because we all need help getting our bodies what they need so that we can detoxify appropriately throughout our lifetimes. Do we all need supplementation all the time? Not necessarily. So you want to choose your supplements carefully. If there's a health condition that you're trying to address with supplements, that might take priority. Sometimes we use supplements proactively. So for example, with older dogs, we might be using a joint supplement. We might be using medicinal mushrooms. But again, these cannot take the place of food, right? These are supplemental, they're extra. So first off, you have to decide, what do I need supplements for? What do I want the supplement to do? Which one am I going to choose? What are the ingredients? Do I have any overlap? Supplementing 2 or 3 of the same thing is not useful. Our bodies need most of the vitamins and minerals in trace amounts, small amounts. So shoveling supplements in or saying, wow, this supplement sounds really good and my dog's allergies are really bad, I'll just give him 3 of them instead of the 1 that it says to use is not necessarily a good strategy. So you want to be judicious with what you're choosing, judicious with how you use it. And then I think too, give your dog a break at times as well.
So one of the things that we were talking about, that's a great way to use supplements is at different life stages, and dogs need more support in certain areas dietarily. And if you tried to satisfy those extra needs just with food, you would be feeding a tremendous amount of food, right? So as puppies are growing or as seniors are aging, it's great to offer a little more organ because that is where the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients, a lot of them are found. Well, you don't want to feed, half of their diet is grass-fed beef liver. So you find a great, freeze-dried organ supplement that you can give them that gives them those added benefits without increasing their food intake, right?
Right.
But even in those situations, it's good to spread it out over time. And the really helpful way to think about this, and we always go back to this, is nature's principles. What's it like in the wild for dogs who would not be domesticated, or for wolves? What naturally happens? They're not going to get extra organ every single day in their prey. It's just not going to happen, right? And so you think to yourself, how can I best replicate what nature does. And so to spread things out and make sure that you're not doing this constant drip, same thing, every single day, and that you're giving a break at different times. That can look like a lot of different things. It can look like, 3 days a week, you do, this, support, supplement proactively. And then, kind of alternate it with something else. Or maybe you do this one for, a month, and then you take a week or 2 off, and then you find a different supplement that does the same thing that's really good, and you switch to a different one, because variety and breaks are important when it comes to supplements, just like the diet.
Right. So dogs are designed to get their vitamins and minerals needs met from eating the organs of their prey. So that's why there are a ton of herbal supplements. It's a lot easier to work with if you don't have to deal with the regulations around using animal products in your supplements. However, what are the odds of your dog being able to get nutrition from a whole giant spoonful of herbs? Not great. They're not designed to digest plants. So these things are super easy to make, and yet your dog is not possibly going to get a lot from them, and increasing the dose there is not helpful to them. So you really want to look for organ-based supplements, animal-based products for the most part. But again, even there, they need to serve a purpose. For the most part, supplements might not need to be given every day. If you think about the wolves, let's say the wolves are out hunting, let's say they take down an elk. The alpha wolf is not going to stand there and say, okay, did everybody get some liver? Oh, little Fluffy down there on the end, he didn't get any. Somebody save him a piece. Like, no, that's not even realistic. So sometimes you get organs, sometimes you don't. Sometimes you get that extra boost, sometimes you don't. Obviously, we all want to feed our dog, like every one of our dogs is the alpha.
Right,
wolf.
of course.
But that's not the world that they were designed for. Even in the realm of, I hear plenty of people say, oh, I make sure my dogs get, they get apples, carrots, and peas every day. That's also not real life, because in real life, there may be parts of the world where this does happen. Those things don't grow every day.
Right.
They're really available for a short period of time. And so that's kind of when our dogs need them, is in bursts, but like small amounts. So I always think, like with everybody, like you need to figure out how your brain works. Some people, if they don't give the supplement every day, it will not get done. Some people are capable of sticking to a 1 week on, 1 week off schedule. Sometimes, depending on the condition, I'll use 2 different supplements that do not overlap, but they might be geared at the same body organ system. And we might use one for the first 2 weeks of the month and the second one for the last 2 weeks of the month.
Another idea that you've given before, and I know you've done this with a lot of your patients, is, maybe you get one type of supplement. Maybe you're like, okay, I'm going to focus on spirulina. Because spirulina is a great superfood, but you don't want to do it forever and always. So you get 1 container of spirulina or 1 bag of spirulina, and maybe you go through that bag, you give it every day or every other day, whatever it is that makes sense for you. And when that container runs out, take a break or do something different. Right? So even if it's easier for you to go, I'm going to do this 1 container of this thing and this 1 container of this thing, and then when that's done, I'm going to go to a different container of something else.
If you have 1 little Chihuahua, and that's your only dog, and you really want to use this supplement, but it only comes in an 8-ounce pouch or a 12-ounce container, either find somebody to split it with, or take out a small amount of it that you can use up in the next 90 days and put the rest of it in your freezer. Save it for next year. Save it for another time. Or you know what, give the rest of it to a rescue organization or something like that. But I would watch it with things that only come in a certain size, and small dogs. You really don't want a supplement to last you typically longer than 90 days, unless it's something super therapeutic and your dog has to be on it for the rest of their life.
So when we think about, the way that things are marketed, in regards to supplementation, and it's like trying to figure out what's good, what's not, what's necessary, what's not. I think it's really, really important to, I mean, we always talk about ingredients and quality of ingredients, but a big challenge can come there because there's a lot of names that are used for the synthetic version of vitamins and minerals that your average person is not going to know what the heck that means. How do I know that that's the synthetic version of vitamin B or what? You know, I don't know unless I look up a list online, which I did look up a list online and print it off because I was like, this is great to me. So I think, Dr. Levy, if you could just give some guidance, like how do you work your way through the sea of names? And when you don't easily recognize this is what this is, and it's some, you know.
If you don't know what something is, just Google it, honestly.
Okay.
And so that was kind of how I figured this stuff out at first. I sat down with like 5 different bags of kibble and literally just Googled each ingredient to see what it was and where it came from. And that was how I learned a lot of this stuff. So I learned that if it says niacin, riboflavin, calcium pantothenate, those are synthetic B vitamins. And in the United States, there are petroleum derivatives. And then you think, well, you know, but my dog needs B vitamins, I guess, but how many petroleum derivatives do you think you should eat in a day?
Yeah, probably not so much.
Yeah, possibly none.
Yeah.
And so again, if we come back to our dogs are supposed to get their vitamins, minerals, needs met from eating animal organs and then herbs kind of secondarily. And so that kind of gives us a little bit of guidance. I kind of watch out for supplements that have especially ones that are straight herbal, but they have a lot of herbs in them, because at some point you're getting such microdoses of each individual herb in order just to not give your dog like a heaping scoop of whatever. And some of those herbs, there's going to be a lot of overlap in their effects. Some of them might negate each other. And so I try to stick to things that maybe have a little bit of a shorter ingredient list of its herbal, or maybe just use 1 or 2 things at a time. If you're really like handy with herbs and you know what you're looking for and know what you're doing. There's a book by Greg Tilford called Herbs for Pets. And so that is kind of my number 1 go-to references for looking at toxicity, looking at the information there to see, like if it says something like, don't use this with this, you know, those are things I want to know about when I'm trying to decipher ingredients and, you know, choose a good supplement for my own pet or my patients. I think in my house, the way that it works out pretty well is that I supplement the dogs when I feed them and my husband doesn't. So probably 50% of the time, they're not getting their supplements. When my dogs have had health issues, he certainly is amenable for me to say, like, listen, Fluffy needs to get this thing every single day. But for the most part, my dogs are right now, everybody's in a pretty good plane of health. And so I think it's actually beneficial that they literally only get their supplements half the time.
It's kind of a nice way to break it up.
Yeah, because then the rest of the days, they just have a day off and their bodies can just focus on utilizing the nutrition in their food without having to deal with extras. And that way, I don't have to worry about overdosing them or giving them too much or letting them be on XYZ for too long. So that is what's working for me at this point.
Something that you mentioned that I really just had not thought of that I think would be helpful for people to know is this idea about when you do have a supplement, especially, I mean, we talk about organs a lot, right? So that's an easy one. But when you talk about a supplement that it involves an animal product like organs, it actually can be really beneficial to look at the human supplements for your dog because they're actually regulated. Is that what you were saying?
Well, there's very few companies that are going to do that because as soon as you say this includes an animal product, all of a sudden the FDA and the USDA are like, oh, what are you doing? We want to look. And in some ways, like that's why we love certain supplement companies,
right?
Because we know that there is oversight because of the ingredients that they're using in their products. So. So I think there are definite benefits there. And you could say, well, you know, why can't I just give my dog extra organs every day? Because it is maybe too easy to overwhelm their body's ability to digest and utilize these things. And so like I have a client who goofed recently and fed her dog like 3 straight meals of organ. That will probably give your dog diarrhea.
Yeah, they're going to get diarrhea. And I know
They might barf too.
In raising litters, you know, it's very important for the breeders that might be listening. When you're transitioning those little tiny babies from mama onto raw food, it is very important to very gradually increase the organ percentage. Because if you do it too quick, too much too fast, you're going to have diarrhea everywhere in your whelping pen. So it's very important to be gradual about that organ consumption, because it too much too fast, it can absolutely cause digestive upset and diarrhea.
Right, because you got to think, like, again, your average prey animal only has 1 liver, 1 spleen, a couple of kidneys to go around.
Right.
But not everybody can have a piece of everything. Well, let's talk about like making a supplement plan. So what kinds of things are we thinking about there when you're trying to essentially create a supplement program that is specific to your dog?
Well, I think it's obviously every dog is an individual, and we say that a lot. Don't assume that because you have, 3 labs and they're, maybe they're all males and they're only about a year apart, that they all need the exact same thing. Every single dog is an individual. And so it's really important to look at your dog and really hone in on what they might actually need. If there's no health issues whatsoever, maybe look at the stage of development that they're in. What age are they? Do they need extra support in one way or another? You need to customize it to each individual dog. Don't just do kind of a blanket approach for your whole pack. You really want to rally around them that way. I think the other thing too that we really try and get across is you want to achieve as much as possible with as little as possible. So in the homeopathic philosophy, which is what we teach, we really like the minimalistic approach. You really what's called the minimum dose. And so we certainly want to make sure there's no overlap. We want to make sure that, if we can choose something that benefits 3 different things at one time from one thing, we're going to go for that one thing, right? And then the last thing I would say is you want to, if your dog is having a chronic issue where there's an acute problem, you're going to want to address that first and then work your way. Don't try and do all the things at one time.
Right. It's like Fluffy has chronic ear infections, and he tends to have intestinal problems, and he's old, and he has arthritis, and he has, because it's just too easy to end up with, there you are back to 15 different things.
Right.
And now you're exceeding your dog's ability to digest them, and now you're getting gut problems as a result.
Or you're pushing too much detox too fast because you're giving too much support. Or
Yeah. And so I will say, like, you don't necessarily need to have a separate plan for each dog, because that could be overwhelming. I have 4 dogs right now. And so I kind of, I look at my older dogs, I look at my younger dogs, and I kind of think, okay, who needs what? And then find some sort of happy medium that everybody can tolerate. And I might use my supplements in rotation because of that. So if I have, and so same thing, like if you think about that example with the labs, they're all male, they're all a year apart, maybe they're all hunting dogs or hunting training or whatever. But when you think about it, like this one maybe has a little bit of trouble maintaining weight, like keeping muscle mass on. This one's had a few ear infections. This one had a reaction to a vaccine. And so like maybe all of those dogs could be helped with some immune system support, some extra fat in the diet, like those kinds of things. And I think that's a really good idea. Like, so sometimes if I'm thinking about something specific, like this dog has kidney issues, I'm looking for something that will do a little bit of natural diuresis. We'll just Google, like, what herbs will do this? What food sources will do this? Because I think you can do it a lot better with herbs than with synthetic fractions of herbs. You're probably always safer working with the whole plant,
Right,
than with what somebody can patent that used to be that plant.
And any time, herbs, we're not saying that, it kind of going, because we kind of went back and forth where we were like, well, herbs maybe wouldn't be as beneficial, blah, blah, blah. Herbs absolutely have their place, and there is a tremendous amount of healing that can be done with herbs, and we're not saying that that's not the case. However, because dogs are carnivores, any time that you can find a nutrient-dense source of whatever it is that you need. You know, maybe you need more omega-3s for whatever else it is. You want that to come from a whole food animal source if you can help it, rather than, so if my dog, you know, Gemma, last season, she was incredibly itchy. There was inflammation. I didn't know what was going on, but I knew that if I upped her omega-3s, I was only going to help the situation. I did not go buy fish oil. I gave her more sardines, right? I'm going to go buy green lip mussels, and I want to feed those to her more than I'm going to go for a bottle of fish oil. So it's just, it's a good perspective to have. That's always my first line, is it's like, okay, what's the most nutrient dense food for XYZ? Or what's the, you know, what's the most predominantly helpful vitamin or mineral or whatever it is for this problem or for this issue or to support this system. And then I look for what are the most nutrient dense sources of that in food. And then I want, what animal sources can I use? You know, is it eggs? Is it sardines? Is it grass-fed beef liver? So I think that's just really, it's a very short process, actually. It's very easy to do online. I've used it time and time again. It's been very helpful.
Yeah, and so that's the process where you kind of create your individualized supplement program for each one of your dogs. And then usually you can give the supplements to all the dogs, and you know, some dogs aren't going to need particular help, but they'll get the benefits from it anyway.
So I think, you know, one last thing that we'll say, as far as, you know, to kind of button up these ideas, is just like everything else, expect what you're putting into practice to take some time. Do not expect to see results in a week. It's going to take some time to probably take effect and really show in full force, you know, the benefits. So again,
Right,
patience.
because I'll say, like, if you're dealing with an acute condition or a dangerous condition, you should be working with a holistic vet who would guide you towards specific supplements, specific dosing, specific ways of doing things. So we're talking about, in general, supplementing our dogs in order to support detoxification, maintain their health, ease their symptoms, that kind of stuff.
So there's a lot of ways, you know, basically there's some kind of major points that you want to take into consideration when you're figuring out supplementation for your dog. So number one is you want variety. You want to make sure that you're not doing the same thing over and over and over again. You want to make sure that you're being a little bit conservative with your dosing. You don't want to overdo it. You know, sometimes, I know a lot of times, Dr. Levy, you recommend half the dose for certain supplements for dogs.
And I will say there's plenty of supplements out there. And honestly, the supplement manufacturer, it's kind of like kibble. Like, their job is to get you to that next container, right? And I look at some of these scoops and I'm like, I'm not giving my dog that much.
That much, right?
Right. And so if you have a dog who is sensitive at all, a lot of times I will start very low with supplements and one at a time and gradually increase the dose. I would rather do that and get some benefit or partial benefit rather than giving them a lot at once and then 3 days in, the dog's having diarrhea and you have to withdraw all the supplements and let them find balance again. I'm not such a fan of that, like, start-stop kind of thing because it prolongs the process and confuses things.
So keep it varied. Make sure that you're being conservative with your dosage. Don't overdo that. Quality is of utmost importance. You want to make sure that, obviously, organic is always going to be preferred. You want to make sure, you know, if you can have, you know, third-party testing or something like that, those are very, very important things to see. You don't want to see synthetic versions. You want to see whole food versions of the different vitamins and minerals or the whole herb in there. So quality is extremely important. Do not overlap. Make sure that you're not doing the same thing in multiple supplements because you could cause yourself a problem. Again, it goes back to that, because you can't be conservative with your dosing if you're doing it 3 different ways. And then the purpose of the supplements is the last thing that you're going to think about. There should be a purpose. It should not be just throwing another thing in there hoping that it's going to do something good. Really have a purpose and an intent behind that supplement. And so I think, you know, if you can kind of think that, you know, that's kind of your umbrella. And then however you achieve, helping to support your animal underneath that umbrella everybody does it a little bit different. Everybody thinks a little different. Everybody's lifestyle is a little different. And so do what works for you. Do what works for you to actually like follow through with it. There's no perfect answer. There's no perfect way to do it. There's a lot of flex in this, but we would just say that, those are kind of the key factors you want to really take into consideration when you're thinking about supplementing anything for your dog.
Because it is a wide and wild world of supplements out there. And it's very effective marketing. Like we said, they know what they're doing. They know how to get to us. They know how to get us to take our dollars out of our pockets. And, we need to kind of be careful about these things and really take a close look at what we're giving our dogs.
Yeah, check your emotions. It's really easy to let our emotions come into play when it comes to our animals. And so make sure you're thinking critically, logically, maybe a little bit more observationally when it comes to what they need and really what is in there in that supplement that you're looking at, the next new shiny thing. And so I think we're just going to close with this, because if I were trying to learn about this stuff and I was watching this video, the whole time I would be screaming two questions in my head. And so we want to address this. Give some examples of bad supplements and what are some good supplements? What would you say to that, Dr. Levy?
Well, while we definitely have our preferences, there's new stuff coming on the market all the time. And you still need to educate yourself. I think it doesn't take a tremendous amount of time to Google some ingredients and be a little bit thoughtful about it. There's a lot of good stuff out there. There's a lot of garbage. And so we don't necessarily want to shame or blame any specific company or, promote some supplement company today and then next year we're going to think like, oh gosh, how did we ever say anything good about them? So,
or there's something better that came out, and so now we're going to,
Right, and so because we need different supplements at different times and for different purposes, there's not one or two companies that we would say, use these folks' products exclusively, because it depends. It depends on the case, it depends on the person, it depends on the situation. And so there are a lot of good options out there.
Yeah, and you can really, you can kind of see from, some different things on a website, how a company kind of conducts business, how they present themselves. You can really, if you start to gain some discernment when you look through on what are your companies of integrity, that are really, they're very transparent about the processes of how they make their products, where they get their ingredients from, how high quality are they. It's not really hard once you start actually looking at it for what it is to see where are the good ones. And so it's really just a matter of you got to start somewhere, and maybe you do know somebody who had great success in real life with something, start there, check out those things. And obviously if you work with a holistic or an integrative veterinarian, if you do a consultation with somebody like me, who's a canine nutritionist, we're certainly going to say, we've seen success with this. We really like this, the integrity of this product. And so, find somebody to work with, maybe one-on-one, that can give you some guidance in the right direction. So then you can see, this is a trusted source. This is a good, this is a good supplement. And then you kind of have some sort of idea of what you're even looking for. So there's different ways to kind of approach it and go about it, but be very careful. Testimonials are not the end all be all, because they can be made up. And, the different tugging at your heartstrings type things. And when, we see that somebody, else has had the same misery with their poor dog that we're having, and it worked for them, then it's got to work for me. That's just not always the case.
Yeah, it's not realistic.
No, it's not. So we'll put some resources down below, as always, on some different things to maybe guide you on this journey a little bit, and kind of get you on your way. But I think really, ultimately, if you can just start thinking, really customizing, what does your dog really need? What do they really need? And if you need some help with that, we're here for that. You know, I do consultations. Dr. Levy does virtual appointments. There's a lot that can be done that way. We're here to help you in that way if we can. So thank you for joining us on this episode of the Crunchy Carnivore podcast. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us. Our goal is always to encourage others to seek out the holistic approach by way of education and empowerment. You can check out our online resources at wellspringhaa.com. You can follow us on our YouTube channel, Wellspring Holistic Animal Academy, and you can also find us on Instagram at wellspring_HAA. We hope that this has been helpful and that you continue with us on your journey to holistic health for your pets. As always, we're here to be unapologetically all natural.